The lecture hall of Kepler Station's Xenobiology Institute buzzed with the usual mix of species. Crystalline Vorthak students chimed softly as they took notes, their silicon-based forms refracting the artificial sunlight. Gaseous ethereals floated, in their containment suits, occasionally pulsing with bioluminescent thoughts. The insectoid Chitauri clicked their mandibles in what passed for whispered conversations among their kind. In the third row, Mino sat perfectly still, her dark eyes scanning the room with practiced efficiency. To her classmates, she appeared to be just another exchange student from the notorious death world called Earth. Interesting, perhaps, but hardly threatening. They had no idea that before joining the Galactic University program, she had spent 8 years as a Special Forces operative in humanity's most classified military unit. David slouched in the seat beside her, his sandy hair falling over tired eyes as he struggled to stay awake during Professor Zexthul's monotonous lecture on interspecies psychological adaptation. Unlike Mino, he truly was just a regular human student, though his friendship with her had taught him to notice things most people missed. The predator-prey dynamic, Professor Zexthul droned through his translator, his tentacles writhing hypnotically, varies significantly across species, with Deathworld inhabitants showing particularly. The door exploded inward. 3 figures, in matte black combat suits, burst through the smoking entrance, their movements too fluid and coordinated to be anything but military. Energy weapons gleamed in their hands, not the standard-issue stunners used by campus security, but military-grade plasma rifles designed to kill. The lead figure raised his weapon toward the cowering students, but his voice carried clearly through the chaos. Nobody moves, nobody dies. We're here for the human specimens. Panic erupted instantly. Chitauri students chittered in terror as they scrambled under desks. The ethereal's containment suits flared with panicked bioluminescence. Even Professor Zexthul had gone pale, his usually vibrant purple skin fading to a sickly gray. But Mino didn't move. David felt her hand settle on his arm with deceptive gentleness, her fingers finding the pressure point that would keep him conscious but compliant. Her message was clear without words. Trust me. Don't move. I said the humans, the leader snarled, his weapon tracking across the room. Through his helmet's visor, cold eyes scanned the diverse crowd of students. We know there are at least 2 in this class. The weapon stopped, aimed directly at a trembling Vorthak student whose crystalline body was refracting the emergency lighting into rainbow patterns. Please, the student chimed, the sound cracking with terror. I am not human. I am silicon-based. Life form from... Wrong answer. The killer's finger tightened on the trigger. That's when Mino stood up. She didn't jump. She didn't shout. She simply rose from her seat with the fluid grace of a predator that had decided to stop hiding. The movement was so controlled, so perfectly executed, that it seemed to bend reality around her. Every eye in the room turned to her, including those of the 3 killers. Here I am, she said quietly. The lead killer swung his weapon toward her, but something in Mino's posture made him hesitate. She stood with perfect balance, her hands visible but positioned in a way that suggested she could be holding weapons, or be a weapon within milliseconds. Her breathing was controlled, her heartbeat steady, and her eyes held the kind of cold calculation that apex predators developed after years of successful hunts. That's better, the killer said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Now your friend. Where's the other human? David started to rise, but Mino's voice stopped him cold. Sit. It wasn't a request. It was the kind of command that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to the hindbrain. David sat without question, and he wasn't the only one. Several alien students who had been creeping toward exits froze mid-motion. The lead killer's grip shifted on his weapon. I gave you an order, Deathworlder. Mino tilted her head slightly, and David recognized the expression from their sparring sessions. She was calculating vectors, timing, probabilities. The same look she got when she was about to do something that defied physics and common sense. You made a mistake coming here, she said conversationally. The killer laughed, but it sounded Forced. 3 trained operatives with military-grade weapons versus 1 unarmed college student? I like our odds. 3 amateurs with stolen gear, Mino corrected, versus a human who's been killing professionally since she was 16. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. You see, Mino continued, taking a single step forward, my classmates here have been learning about predator-prey dynamics from textbooks, but I learned from a different curriculum. Another step. The killer's weapons tracked her movement, but something was wrong. Their formation was shifting, becoming defensive rather than aggressive. Did you know, she asked, her voice carrying, clearly through the sudden silence, that humans are the only species that hunts for sport, the only ones that developed persistence hunting, the ability to chase prey for days until it dies of exhaustion? The lead killer's hand was trembling almost imperceptibly. We're the only species that looks at something bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than us, and thinks, I wonder how I could kill that. We turned warfare into an art form, developed weapons that could sterilize planets, and we did it all while living on a world that was actively trying to murder us every single day. She was close enough now that the killer would have had to step back or fire. He did neither, frozen by something deeper than conscious thought. And you, Mino said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, brought weapons into my classroom, threatened my classmates, scared my friend. The silence was absolute. Even the station's background hum seemed muted. So here's what's going to happen, she continued. You're going to put those toys down, get on your knees, and wait for station security. Because if you don't... She smiled, and David felt his own blood run cold. He'd never seen that particular expression on her face before. If you don't, you'll discover why humans are the only species the Galactic Council classifies as an invasive predator on every single world we visit. The lead killer's weapon clattered to the floor. His companions followed suit moments later. As they knelt with their hands behind their heads, David finally understood what Professor Zexthal had been trying to explain about predator-prey dynamics. Sometimes the prey just needed to remember they were actually the predator,